Distinguished delegates and ladies and gentlemen, a very warm good afternoon to all of you. I'm happy to be part of this Arabian Sea dialogue today. I congratulate ORF for bringing policymakers, business and political leaders, and experts on a single platform to engage how we could find concrete ways of dialogue for mutual benefit of our people, region, and humanity. Friends, our historical ties with the people of the Gulf and the Arabian Peninsula date back several millennia. Our ancestors exchanged not only goods, but more importantly, ideas, belief systems, and navigation skills, creating a shared ethos that remains even today. Our Prime Minister had several visits to Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, and Oman. There has been high-level engagement on specific issues. The theme of today's session, in which I'm addressing you, is a sea of opportunity. The framework agreement on economic cooperation between India and the GCC, among other objectives, lays emphasis on the exchange of information in economic cooperation, technical expertise, and training. New areas for bilateral cooperation have been identified. These include food security, water, renewable energy, biotech, skill development, electronics, digitization, including cybersecurity and innovation. I will be touching on few of these, but I will focus on the domain of my current portfolio, which is skilling, entrepreneurship, and innovation. To me, skilling and employment is the backbone for deepening our ties with presence of almost 9 million Indians in the Gulf region. There is significant complementarity here between the Gulf region and on the human resources. In UAE itself, Indians constitute 35% of the population. From shining skyscrapers such as Burj Khalifa to the vast retail, construction, and financial sector, the Indian footprint is omnipresent. Most of these migrants, they remit a large part of their earnings back to India. In 2018, it amounted to almost 18.5 billion USD, which is at a macroeconomic perspective, almost 2% of India's GDP. 70% of these Indian migrants broadly fall in the blue-collar category. Indian workers are considered honest and hardworking, and therefore preferred for low-skill, low-pay jobs that serves a wealthy society. However, even before the pandemic, it had become clear that the current model is not sustainable in the long run. In May 2022, India and UAE agreed to scale up skills-based cooperation and take SEPA to the next level. Recognition of certificates by the Indian skilling centers in UAE and renewal of government-to-government mechanism between India's Central Ministry of Skill Development and National Qualification Authority of UAE was discussed. An agreement was also signed to set up Skill India International Center at Varanasi. There is also a case, I feel, to liberalize the process of assessment and certification of Indian workers to facilitate greater mobility. Our state government is happy to collaborate for setting up of State Skills International Center in Maharashtra. We are also willing to explore joint accreditation framework between our Board of State Skilling and National Qualification Authority of the GCC member states. We have 400 plus government ITIs with an enrollment of 1.5 lakh youth, covering over more than 90 trades, which cover both engineering and non-engineering sectors. We also have solid industry tie-ups. It will be a great opportunity for both sides if the skill requirements and gaps are identified in GCC, so we could customize and train some of our talented youth for overseas development to serve the needs of GCC states in sectors like e-commerce, healthcare, hospitality, ports, logistics. I solicit support of the wide partners, organizations, and overseas recruiters in this endeavor. Another area for collaboration could be our higher and technical education institutions, including our IITs and our newly set up skills universities in Maharashtra. We could design exchange programs academic research programs, and Industry 4.0 related courses together to provide professional workforce. Another important area is energy, there has been a decisive shift to clean energy in the post-pandemic period. A significant decline in the cost of renewable energy technologies has given impetus to this. But we do have experts like Mr. Siddik Bakir, who will be speaking right after me on this sector. Besides energy, water management is another important area. The World Resources Institute of a report in 2019 pointed that 18 out of 22 Arab states were suffering from severe water shortages. The report also included India at number 13 in number of water stress. Working together on water conservation, recycling of water, desalination, and making drinking water safe will be in the joint interest of both sides. Food security, as pointed out by Mr. Hinduja earlier, is also a priority concern for all GCC nations. This is because of not only climate change, but supply disruptions due to market and political volatilities. Given India's huge fruit and vegetable produce and losses due to poor storage, the food processing sector has the greatest potential for investment in farm-related logistics. A start has already been made with the pioneering farm-to-port project, which envisages a farming zone for UAE market with dedicated logistics to the infrastructure to the port. The UAE has also announced its plans to become a regional food knowledge hub and increase food production by 30% by 2021. India, with its large agriculture research system, can be a worthy partner to build food security in GCC. Gulf countries are also heavily investing in digital education through their institutions, the UAE University, the Mohammed bin Zayed University for AI, and the New Media Academy. Here too, I would say that we are happy to collaborate with Gulf universities for crafting special courses and programs in areas of artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, cloud computing, data analytics, and ICT, with a focus on women and youth. No discussion of digital collaboration would be relevant without mention of digital divide. The gender gap in mobile ownership and mobile internet usage in West Asia is very pronounced. Researchers show that women in the region are 9% less likely to own a mobile phone. We must consider affordable smartphone device distribution to cohorts of working women. Initiatives to increase digital literacy and encourage women in STEM courses need to be ramped up to see their re-entry into the job market. Collective emphasis should also be made on flexible working conditions for women and strategies for increasing female labor force participation. I do hope that such forums would lead to a constitution of a working group to align our policy and programs with a gender lens for mutual benefit. I'll be happy to contribute to any such initiative. Promoting innovation through a startup ecosystem can be a game changer for both sides. Maharashtra counts for 26 unicorns out of 106 unicorns in the country. The Expo 2020 provided a unique platform for Indian startups to pitch to Middle East investors. My team from State Innovation Society also met with prospective partners like DTEC in Dubai. We propose to sign a MOU that includes a soft landing program as well as preferential rates for startups incorporated in Maharashtra that would want to set up base in Dubai. Lot of Indian diaspora are now active angel investors. Large sovereign funds from ME are actively investing in Indian startups. Kimji family from Oman has invested into Dimension NXT, our AR/VR startup we have funded from our Maharashtra Aerospace and Defense Fund. Social commerce startups, DealShare, Policy Bazaar, Lenskart have leveraged substantial funds for expansion in the region. During the Expo Dubai 2020 in Dubai, FICCI Lead and DIFC has decided to select at least 50 startups from India and UAE over a period of 5 years with the aim to grow a minimum of 10 startups into unicorns by 2025. Our Maharashtra State Innovation Society conducts a startup week every year where we choose 24 best startups which have innovative solutions to work in different domains in government. I would give you some examples. A blockchain startup called CrossForge is issuing close to 1 million certificates for our candidates and helping our state board for vocational education. Haystack Analytics startup, chosen for pilot for TB treatment in JJ Hospital now, effectively used genome sequencing technology during the COVID pandemic for identifying Omicron variant. Sagar Defense, our winner of 4th edition, is now manufacturing vessels for Indian and Merchant Navy. We have partnered with UK FCDO to mentor startups in clean energy. We are also collaborating with US Embassy for mentoring of women-led startups. I would be happy to extend similar collaborations with the GCC member states. There is a lot of scope for learning from each other, especially when it comes to policy initiatives for promoting startups and innovations. My department will be happy to connect startups in fintech, health, agri-tech, advanced manufacturing, AI, blockchain, AR, VR, mobility, sustainability, and green energy with government agencies and investors in GCC. I would end now by a quote of Bertrand Russell. The only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation. Like the immensity of the Arabian Sea, the opportunities of shared learning and co-creating opportunities for the good of our people and planet are huge. Let us commit ourselves to this goal with concrete action, resources, and execution. Thank you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Jaibal and team, Nutika, thank you very much for an excellent conference here. Let me say at the outset, I'm not speaking on behalf of the ministry, so these will be my personal opinions, so don't quote me as the Ministry of Energy of Saudi Arabia said that, please. I know you guys are just waiting for that. But there's a couple of points that I want to make, if you allow me. One, touching on some of the subjects that were touched upon earlier when it comes to the macro environment, from a geopolitical but also from a macroeconomic perspective in which we are currently are. And then in the second part, I'm going to say something about actually the business and trade opportunities that I think the Sea of Opportunities should touch on. And I'm grateful that the previous speaker has already opened the door to that subject. So let's contextualize where we are at the moment here in 2022 in the context of the world as it is. We find ourselves in a time of profound geopolitical changes, given the Western decoupling from China on the one hand, with the US leading that, the Europeans being divided over its relationship to Russia in terms of energy, but security as well, and at the same time, a world that is focusing here in India, but also in the GCC, on a different approach to politics and economics in general, driven by something which I would call pragmatism. So you are having a divided world and a very interesting second layer that says, whatever the geopolitical fault lines may be, in this context, we need to find opportunities. We need to be able to secure our economic prosperity, to secure our energy supply, to ensure that our people have jobs, to ensure that that we have a progressive policy-making approach rather than a regressive one. In this context, India is a very important partner for the GCC countries. And everyone knows, and everybody has said it already, energy is a fundamental area for the GCC in its relationships to India and Asia overall. I will only say one point regarding to energy, just for you to contextualize. The most important buyer of GCC oil and gas is Asia, not the West, not America, not Europe. That used to be. The OECD countries used to be the buyers, the consumers of the energy that comes from the GCC. But over the last decade and a bit more, it has completely shifted to Asia. So imagine what importance India and China have for the GCC individually, but other countries in the region overall as well. So it's logical that the GCC's perspective is to look closely to India. It's a must. And in return, India is, of course, important for the GCC for various reasons. You mentioned it. In fact, there's capital flows in both directions. Remittances go in this direction, trade in this direction, and energy supply in the other direction. So money is circulating in this region quite heavily. And it's important to understand that in order to ensure that this is built on that relationship will go further. And then the other aspect is that you're looking here at a situation where everybody is saying that, so I'm not saying anything new, that we need to interact more on multiple levels. Now, you know, Henry Kissinger once said, when I want to call Europe, who am I going to call? Where's the telephone? When India wants to call the GCC, who are you going to call? So India will have to have perhaps a way of dealing with the GCC countries on an individual basis, but also maybe in a regional kind of setup that allows it to communicate as the European Union does and others. So keep this in mind. The GCC may be viewed as a bloc, but it has individual members with individual interests, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, of course, Kuwait, and the others, which have individual elements that need to be really understood in India, but also in the GCC in order to make the most out of it. But in addition to that, and someone said it earlier, why not having regionalism as a new kind of approach? And I want to say something about that because we spoke earlier about the macroeconomic challenges and the kind of the deceleration of globalization. And whenever that happens, you have an upcoming trend of regionalization. So in a deglobalized context, regionalism gets up. And it's very important because that's a window of opportunity for India and the GCC to tap into it and create a regionalist approach in a world where globalism is actually facing a lot of challenges. In that macro context, now let's go to the micro business and trade context. And that's where I come from as with my other hat. I'm the CEO of an investment advisory firm and a ventures firm in Abu Dhabi as well, and I'm a member of the Emirati Angel Investor Association in Abu Dhabi. What do we do? All we do is look for opportunities to invest in. And I'm glad that one of the investments we did actually has now started in India operations as well. Simply because we, and by that I mean those 45 members who are the third generation families of Abu Dhabi and the Emiratis, we look at the world differently. We look at through the lens of what opportunities are there for investments, for digitization, automation, fintech, health tech, anything where we believe in the generation that is us and those behind us or after us, that we can say we want to tap into. A very pragmatic approach, not clouded by ideological themes, not clouded by, can I invest in India or can I invest in Pakistan or can I? We actually look at what are investment opportunities. And if they solve a social problem, have an impact investment, even better. So, and as a matter of fact, we have a monthly pitch day every month where we bring investors to present to us their opportunities. And we have people from India, we have people from Africa, we have people in Latin America, US, Europe. And everyone knows now the UAE, the GCC, Saudi Arabia is open to invest in opportunities outside the GCC. And India is an important factor in that. So let's summarize. Values are important. Geopolitical issues will always be there. Challenges abound. But for real sea of opportunities to be implemented, you need to bring trade and business opportunities at the forefront in order to allow a different collaboration and a different approach in the world of India and GCC that is not only driven by the government-to-government level, but by the businesses-to-business levels. It's very important in my personal opinion and experience. There's this adage that you say, the flag follows the trade, right? I mean, I know we do a lot the other way around. We start with our governments first, the flags go and say, let's sign an MOU, everybody happy, and then after that, hopefully the companies follow. But actually, that's fine, and it's necessary in many areas. But if you allow trade to flourish, flag will follow as well. And suddenly new partnerships and alliances emerge. And that's an important word. In this current period of time, alliances and partnerships are at the moment in a huge shift. You know, and now the countries, as we call in the global south, have the choice to partner with whom they want to partner because of pragmatic reasoning, because of economic reasoning. And that's a very important area to tap into as India, I believe, as well as the GCC. And the final point that I'd like to make is, you said it, the esteemed colleague said it all before, you have millions of people from India in the GCC. I work with many. So it's a question of what is the GCC getting out of them? Well, first of all, there's a lot of workforce and a lot of brain force from India that helps the GCC economies to be where they are. It's actually a fact. At the same time, the GCC is a highly ambitious place in terms of opening itself up to digitization, automation, the entire way how the UAE has evolved and how Saudi Arabia is evolving just says, I believe in an optimistic future. I believe in progress. I believe in development. And I will embrace technology and everything and anyone who can contribute to that. And India, with its brain and its abilities, is really a key partner for that. It's a no-brainer almost, that the Indians must understand and must pursue that they can drive that optimism in Saudi Arabia and the GCC overall, that they can drive in Qatar, in the UAE, all of the GCC countries, and be part of it, not a bystander, and to make that transformation happen. Everyone in the West, everyone in China wants to come to the GCC because of those reasons. Question is, who is the best to make it happen? On the other hand, there's a lot of capital. There's a lot of capital in Abu Dhabi and Riyadh, in the institutional funds, as well as in the private family offices and family investment entities that seek opportunities. They want to find out who are the best fund managers in India. They want to find out who are the best businessmen or founders and entrepreneurs and CEOs and startups. There's a huge ventures market evolving in the last couple of years. In Saudi Arabia and the UAE, the ambassador Suri, who was in Abu Dhabi in his last post, will remember what kind of dynamism is going on there. And I think, and it is very important because I'm part of that. I'm also a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization in Riyadh. So Riyadh and Abu Dhabi, I can see very well how dynamic they are. And everybody looks at India as a potential opportunity to invest in. And I think it would be great if one uses these conferences such as these to talk about the geopolitics and macroeconomics and all these areas, but bring these investment businesses, venture side also into it. You will also attract a different crowd, actually, that is less, as I said before, ideologically tainted, but says, you know, I'm interested in your software or your idea or how you solve this problem. And with that, you create a new partnership. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I was just looking at this connect, create, and collaborate. And then I was looking at two things which have been discussed this morning. One is in terms of security related to the region. Second was security in terms of the oil security or the energy security. I'm bringing in a third perspective, that is agriculture. And agriculture security, basically to take care of needs of food, not only in India, but also in the GCC. Why I'm talking about it? If you look at the whole GCC region, the contribution of agriculture to GDP is just about 1.2%. That region, the soil doesn't have the quality for good agriculture. The temperatures are extreme. And the third thing is in terms of arable land, there's a huge shortage. And if you look at the population of GCC, which is about 60 million now, and the estimates are by 2033, it will be 106 million. Obviously, you require food for all those people. They can't live on oil. How do you get that? There is one example which SALIC, the Saudi Arabian fund, they did a very good thing. They invested in an Indian company called Dawat. So that was the first thing which happened. And that leads to my collaboration bit. What can India and the GCC bring in to the table? There are 3 or 4 things which India and GCC can bring in. I'll give you an example, like China went to Africa and bought a lot of land for mining. Can GCC investment and Indian labor get into Africa or get into Canada and do agriculture? Can we do that? We require investments, we require land, and we require people. So we have investments, we have people. If the GCC and India combine, the land is in Canada, in Australia, can we look at those projects? That's number 1. There are 2 other things which I was looking at. Say this whole IT that we talk about, it can be very easily used. Now, India, we are the largest milk producer in the world. And the largest of them, Danones or Fronteras, they came to India, tried setting their shop here, and they had to go out because of the domestic majors, Amuls and Mother Dairies of the world. We have the quality. In 3 years, we will have surplus milk. We have a very nice way of, we have Aadhaar numbers, so our national unique numbers. Equivalent of that, we have devised the NDLM, that is National Digital Livelihood Missions, where every single animal also will have a unique number like Aadhaar, our unique Indian human beings number. The second thing, if you are looking at agriculture exports, and if you are looking at shipment of documents, can you look at e-permits, e-certificates? So make it easy for things to get exported or imported within countries. That's the second part of it. The third I was looking at in terms of, how do you minimize the trade barriers? So I just looked at who are the other countries who can supply to GCC their food needs. Because about 85% of the food is imported in GCC. So I can look at only 4 or 5 major countries: US, possibly Brazil, Europe, including UK, India. China, of course, will not. So if you look at these 4 geographies, India is the closest. So the shipping time and the shipping cost will be the lowest. There wouldn't be any food wastages. If you were to ship something from, say, US, except for chocolates, anything other which is non-perishable, it will be hugely expensive. Can you export something from India? Now, there are 2 concerns which could come in. I think Madam mentioned about food parks. Investment from GCC in food parks in India to maintain the quality which is required in UK, in the whole GCC. And if you have larger scale, can we become an export hub, which is a partnership between GCC and India, and you export to other countries across Africa? Is this possible? There's an investment opportunity for both these countries. The last bit of it, there are 2 or 3 things which we should learn from the Chinese experiment in Africa. They went, they extracted, and they're not using anything there in those countries. I think GCC and India, when we are talking about it, we need to stay invested in each other for a long time. Only then, possibly, both these geographies, they will benefit, and the whole mankind will benefit. That's about it. Thank you very much.